It's my great pleasure to introduce Kohei Suzuki. So he's an assistant professor at Institute of Public Administration, Leiden University in the Netherlands. He obtained his PhD from O'Neill, and then he's a research associate at the Quality of Government Institute in Sweden, and he specializes in local government reforms, bureaucracy, from a comparative perspective, and with the focus on meritocracy, politicization, bureaucratic attitudes, and gender representation. Today, he's going to be talking about mergers. Well, I have a little bit of a different title, but I think that's the real title. Merger effects, thus leadership continuity. And not read that. Moderate municipal performance effects of consolidation is a co-author piece with Claudia Avellaneda. So thank you very much. Rules of engagements as usual. So you will be talking around 20 minutes. I will be keeping the queue. Then you can answer questions.
So thank you, Gustavo, for your kind introduction. So I graduated from SPEAR 2016. Then what is that? So that's an interview. Then after that, I moved to Sweden for my postdoc. Then after that, I started to work for the Leiden University in Netherlands as an assistant professor. So at that time, I did not even expect to live in Europe and work for the university in the Europe. So life, you never know what's going to happen. So that is what I learned. So today, I want to present my course and work with Claudia Avellaneda. We've been working together since we met at the SPEAR. So it's about municipal mergers and its moderating effect of leadership continuity. It's not working. Yeah. So consolidation, or people sometimes say the merger, it's kind of like action or process of combining a number of a small single entity to create a bigger one. For example, hypothetically, let's say Bloomington absorbs Ellettsville. It's kind of a municipal annexation or merger. Then Bloomington can become a big municipality. So actually, this type of merger as an administrative reform is very popular in most of the OECD advanced developed countries. So half of the OECD countries have actually conducted this type of a municipal merger reform in the last few decades. So merger can be mandatory or voluntary. For example, in case of Denmark, as far as I remember, the merger is a mandatory. But in case of Japan, it's voluntary. In other cases like Australia, Finland, and the United States, not so much, most of the small case of municipal annexation, but Japan has 3 nationwide municipal reform. Then on the other hand, some countries such as Brazil, Russia, India have experienced something as different, opposite, kind of decentralization. So in terms of the relation with the Austrian workshop, I think municipal merger is a kind of opposite of a decentralized system. Because merger, by doing a merger, the municipalities government creates one more centralized big government. So that is considered an opposite, the polycentric governance system. So municipal merger in Japan, actually, there are 3 historical waves of municipal mergers, nationwide municipal merger. So in the first wave back in the 19th century, the number of municipalities, was reduced from 17,000 to 15,000. So it's a kind of very big, municipal reform at that time. Then there's the next wave of municipal merger in the 1915s and 16s. The size of municipalities was reduced from 9,000 to 3,000. Then this is the current reform, the Great Heisei Municipal Consolidation conducted in the early 20s, this centuries. So the size of municipalities was reduced from 3,000 to around 1,700 or so. So I think there's not so many cases of countries which conduct this size of a big nationwide municipal merger reform. Then actually, yeah, most Japanese local government experienced the municipal mergers after 1999. So as I said, the number of municipalities was reduced. And actually, how many cases of merger? So actually 649 cases of municipal merger was happened in this period. Then, however, 80%, most of the mergers were concentrated in the 2 years, 2004 and 2005. Then we mostly focus on these 2 years. Then, as I said, merger is not mandatory, but voluntary. However, the central government provides some financial incentive to local government, especially those which have a weak, financial conditions. So the central government provide government bond, also some provide subsidies. So they incentivize small municipality to merge. So that is a trend. Then actually the number of municipalities, as I said, reduced from 3,000 to the 1,700. Then this is the number of municipal merger cases. So as I said, most merger cases were focused, concentrated in the 2 years. However, there are like some small cases of municipal merger in other period. Then our research question is what are the performance effect of municipal consolidation? So one of the promises that the government made when they make a municipal merger is, we can reduce, we can improve efficiency of a municipal performance, and we can improve a performance municipality by utilizing the scale of economies. So merger, bigger is better, but actually there is mixed evidence of effects of municipal mergers. So we want to test if actually municipal merger really works in terms of municipal performance. Then another variable we want to add is the leadership continuities. So if we focus on the leadership continuity, if leaders, continues before the merger, then if the same leader stays after the merger, so those leaders tend to have more like knowledge and be familiar with how municipality works. So if there's a leadership continuity, does it affect the performance of municipal merger effect on performance? So that is our kind of second research questions. So current research, we actually made a lot of changes, and we are still making changes from the paper we actually posted that was written several years ago. So now still in the process, and we are trying to expand our coverage here of the municipality, the data set. Also, we want to focus on diverse set of leadership continuities. So actually, I want to share some tricky aspects of municipal mergers. So actually, which you don't see at any other type of the merger reform research. So unit of analysis actually changes, before the merger, okay, let's think about panel data. So before the merger, there's a small set of municipality, four municipality or 5 municipality. But after the merger, so they become one big municipality. So how can I compare, the before and post-merger municipality? So that is a very intuitive question. Then I was also wondering, actually, but not so many researchers questioned about it. So I think Jessica is the first one who pointed out this issue while in the oral conversation. But usually, previous research just aggregated, pre-merger unit data to the post-merger data unit. Then just compare the post-merger data and the pre-merger unit, as if pre-merger, post-merger municipality existed even in the pre-merger unit. So I do intuitively, I don't still think that this is not, I still don't think it's a good idea, but I cannot find any way to solve this issue. So if you have any idea, I would really appreciate. There are another tricky issues of municipal merger is some municipalities experience the merger multiple times. Small municipality merge one time, then experience the second merger, third merger. I think even up to 5/5 or 6 mergers. Some municipalities experience that. So we usually include the control variable for that. But maybe there may be other way to control this kind of type of mergers. Then theory, actually previous public management literature says usually the bigger works better in terms of municipal performance because bigger size takes advantage of economies of scale and economies of scale scope. So usually if the size is becoming bigger, municipality have a more greater control over the external environment, also can avoid some administrative duplications, also have more purchasing power and have more greater resources. So in that sense, I think consolidation or merger can improve efficiency in operational cost. However, actually empirical evidence is pretty inconclusive around the world. So some studies said municipal merger improves efficiency, but some studies said it is not the case. So we want to test this merger case in using a case of Japanese municipal merger reform. So actually there are many municipal merger reform studies focusing on Denmark, which also experienced a similar nationwide reform. But actually they are not still the number of studies focusing on Japanese municipalities still few compared to other countries. So we want to develop studies. Then another things, the second dependent variable is a revenue growth. So we want to focus on the revenue growth of a municipality as a dependent variable, especially focusing on the tax collection rate and extra revenue, extra revenue growth. Kind of letting the private sector to utilize municipal facilities to make money or something like that. So usually the more taxpayers, the number of taxpayers and the more the size of the areas being taxed, that means more revenues, expansions. Also, bigger size municipalities tend to have more, the human resources with a good expertise, diverse human resources can bring more expertise also to the human capital. Also, the municipalities, because they may have more good facilities or some kind of foundations, tangible foundation, to collect tax or to generate the revenue. So we hypothesize that the municipal consolidation is expected to be positively related to revenue expansions. However, this is a new aspect we want to focus on. The consolidations brings new challenges. So let's imagine that the one municipality and the small other municipality, they may have a totally different organization cultures, also organization norm and different history. How can we make this marriage, happen, and how can how can we gain the benefit from this manage? So I think the consolidation cannot be always happy, but consolidation also brings some new challenges to municipalities. For example, managing the larger diverse population and a new municipal leadership may have to deal with different stakeholders, also different types of ethnic people, or different type, more diverse citizens, also diverse interest groups. So such a heterogeneous, the increase in the heterogeneity, the diversity may also bring some challenges for the leadership and performance of bureaucracies. Also, merger also means that the leaders have to supervise diverse municipal, bureaucracy, local government officers, local government cultures may really be different among municipal merger units. So managing such a, diverse organizational culture may also be challenging for the new leaders. However, we think that if there is a continuation before and after, continuation of leadership, before and after the merger, those kind of leadership continuation may mitigate such a bad, negative effects of municipal mergers on the performance of bureaucracy. Because if leaders actually stays in the power for a long time, actually the previous studies, public management studies says, long time experience of a leader or a mayor actually tend to bring a good outcomes in terms of performance, also tax collection rate, or in terms of other outcomes in the municipal budget. So we think that leaders, the same having lead the previous merger unit may bring some benefits in terms of the kind of mitigation of negative effects of merger. Because mayors have already some connections with some key important stakeholders within the municipality. Also, mayors know kind of how to maybe know the handling their own, organizational problems. Also, may have had some issues, have some knowledge with other municipalities. Also, this continuation mayor can bring some benefit of accumulated knowledge or something. So that's why we hypothesize that if there is a mayorship continuation, so there should be more positive effect of mergers on the performance of a municipal government compared to those which was merged but did not have any continuation. So if there is discontinuation, we think that this should bring some negative benefit. So case selection, so we talk about Japanese case. So as I said, merger is not mandatory, but it's voluntary. The municipal central government offers some generous bonds to those which actually merged during this period. Also, central government grant some local tax transfer. It's kind of subsidies to local governments which agree to merge. Actually, for many of the municipal merger cases, the major reason for the municipal merger was to improve, financial condition, because most of the municipalities actually merged because they are to improve their weak financial status. And actually, there are two types of a municipal merger. One is a municipal absorption. Then one is a creation of a new municipality. So municipal merger is something like one big municipality absorb small municipality. Then in that case, I think the core municipality retains its mayor or legislature or other import, even including a name. So mainly it's a continuation of a one big municipality, just including small municipalities around that. So then these cases happened 188 cases absorption among out of the 649 cases merger. The majority of the case is the second one, the creation of a new municipality. So they create a new municipality from scratch, not from scratch, but from nothing. So in that case, mayors, legislatures, and names of the municipality have to be changed. So they have to come up with a new municipality name. Also, there should be election, mayor election, also legislature election within the 50 days after the creation of a new municipality. So these are actually totally different types of the municipal mergers. And then in that case, in the creation of a new municipality case, pre-merger mayor and legislators may run for the office again because they want to keep their status. Also, interesting, in some cases, there are some conflict about who will win the mayorship after the So this is something actually we also want to explore. If there is a conflict among mayorship election among merger partners, how does it affect the performance of municipality? So there's kind of battle. Internal battle may also negatively affect. So this is something we want to do in the future. So as I said, in this preliminary analysis, we focus on these only two periods because this is still in the transition. Then we also want to explore the other municipal year later. Then data set, the current data set actually include the data from 2002 and 2012. Then, however, we now try to expand it to the 1998 to 2014, so that we have more pre-merger pre-merger years data. Currently, we only have 2 years as a pre-merger, 2002 and 2003. Then our main merger years are 2004 and 2005, and post-merger years it's very long, like 6 or 7 years. So we want to make more balance and more data set. Then, as I said, we impose the post-merger structures of the pre-merger, post-merger unit structures on the pre-merger unit structure. So we aggregated the data to the post-municipal merger, even before the merger, the municipal merger here. Then we did the difference analysis here. The dependent variables first is the efficiency in operational costs. So we focus on total municipal expenditure per capita, which is very standard, very popular, widely used efficiency dependent variable in public administration research. Then the second one is the total municipal budget spent on the administrative cost. Here we focus on especially the administrative costs, such as salary and supplies and equipment and other mandatory expenses. Then second one is the effectiveness in the revenue expansion through municipal property use per capita. So this is something like Bloomington City Office have some unused facilities such as library or storage. And so they let citizens to use or private sector use those facilities. Then private sectors have to provide maybe 20% of profit to the city of Bloomington, something like that. Then second one is a property tax collection rate, which is also the standard, often used the measurement of revenue expansion. Then the variable difference in difference treatment variables is we use the 2 types of different treatment variables. One is a merged or not merged, or 0 or 1 binary variable. Then the second treatment variable is we focus on types of municipalities. So there's no merger, then municipal absorption and creation of new municipalities. Then time trend is 2002 and 2003 is a pre-merger period, which is called 0. Then post-merger is after 2004 is the 1 is assigned. And the estimate is a municipal merger and the post-merger trend, and municipal merger type and post-merger trend is the idea.
Because you're running out of time.
Sorry, for quick.
Maybe we can come back to this, I'm sure, during the questions.
To this the moderating effect. Here we are still constructing a data set, so we temporarily put the 2002 as a basis of municipal mayorship constraint. So we checked if the mayor in 2002 stays in the power in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 0 onward. So we assign the 0 or 1, depending on we have the same mayor with the 2003 or not. But I still do not think this is a perfect idea. So we really appreciate your input. So then we look at the trend. Actually, because of a shortage of pre-merger years, we cannot see the clear trend. But honestly, there should be some not parallel in trend in the pre-merger unit, for example. So we really need to check more pre-merger unit pre-merger year data. Then this is a result of a preliminary analysis. So actually we see some kind of opposite. So merger and post-merger trend, this shows actually municipality which are merged or not. So merged, actually they increase more operational costs. So that means efficiency actually is lost for those who have experienced merger. Then if you look at the tax collection rate, so actually municipality who got merged, so the tax collection rate actually goes down. So actually municipal performance in terms of these two measures can gotten worse after the municipal merger, by doing this analysis. Also, we look at the types of the municipal merger, municipal absorptions, and creation of new municipality. So in both cases, actually municipal expenditure is per capita is increased. So in terms of efficiency, actually it goes bad. Then in terms of revenue from property use, the revenue actually is going down. Also, property tax collection rate also goes down, especially creation of new municipalities. So it may be, we can maybe imagine that when the municipality create a new municipalities, there might be some confusions over which how to collect the tax or how to collect the tax in other small areas. So that may also explain that this such a kind of a negative effect of merger, especially new municipality creation, the property tax collection. Then actually, when we look at the mayorship continuity using a three interaction effect, here we don't see any effect, but here in case of municipal absorption and same mayor, so municipal, mayor stays, then in case of municipal absorption, it have to worsen the operational cost. So it increased significantly the operational cost, also as well as administrative cost. So in terms of efficiency, actually, the input, yes.
Yeah, I think
this is good. That is a negative effect of municipal merger, but in terms of polycentric system, it may show the good news because centralization actually leads to a negative impact. So, but however, this is still in the progress. So we want to expand the data set. Also, we want to consider the mayorship continuity variable, and as well, also we very welcome your suggestions for this. Thank you very much.
Well, who wants to start? Bernie, you are just, you wanted to stop the, or you have a question? I was not sure.
You have lots of things to talk about, and so it became a little bit hard to figure out what the key focus was. A comment that I would have is, I was thinking of Lynn Ostrom in Indianapolis, and consolidation, which is many years old, which in itself would be an interesting case to look at over time. And the consolidation was not a positive in terms of community policing. And I guess I was thinking of your work, great database for Japan. And it's all in this one time period, 2004 and 5. They all. What caused that to happen in 2004, 2005 specifically? If it was any other time, because something happened to all of a sudden trigger all those communities to do something in one period of time, and then it didn't continue. So it sounds like it wasn't a good idea after that fact because no one else did it the next few years.
Yeah, I think
that's other questions, but
yeah, I think that's a very good question. So as far as I remember, I think that financial incentive, there are like many phases of a financial incentive. So some of the financial incentives were expired in 2004 or 2005. So that's why some municipalities want to take advantage of these financial incentives before they got expired in 2005. So I think that may explain the increased number.
That means it wasn't really a governance issue, it was a finance issue because it was a financial incentive to do it. It wasn't because the community said governance-wise, we could do better by consolidating.
Yeah, actually, yes. So actually, if municipality wants to get merged, they may have some referendum, but that's not mandatory. That referendum is used as a kind of reference information. So I think citizen voice actually, but not so that strong in this process.
Here, who was first, Dan or Mike? Dan, okay.
Just ask, could we go back to the regression slide real quick? I just want
Okay, you want to see the table? Okay. Well, they ask and then you can ask.
I have many as well.
The first.
So my question is about sort of the theoretical
Yeah.
grounding of this. And when I think of Vincent was writing about polycentric systems or started writing about them, we were in the midst of a big consolidationist movement in the US. And the question was, I mean, to put it in stark economic terms, do we actually get economies of scale or do we diseconomies of scale? And so my starting point is to imagine sort of an inverted U-shaped curve where there are going to be economies of scale to some amount of consolidation, at least in some circumstances. And then eventually it's going to flip and you're going to start getting diseconomies of scale as things become unwieldy. Right? And so I guess what I'm asking about your case is how consolidated were they already? You know, these before the merger, consolidation had already taken
I see.
services, right?
Depending on the population size, some municipality already reached that.
I mean, so from a polycentric governance point of view, I don't, you know, Vincent wouldn't have a complaint if you have two public schools located 2 blocks from each other and each of them has only 5 students. I don't think anybody complains. Nobody thinks there aren't economies of scale and consolidation in that case. So it's all very context dependent. And so I guess I just want you to bring out the context. Thank you very much.
Mike?
Yeah, a couple comments. Dan and Bernie have both sort of picked up on the incongruence of someone arguing for the positive benefits of consolidation here 50 years after the workshop was established, and then to sort of test whether consolidation was a good idea or not. And that's fine. It's just sort of kind of an interesting thing to observe. But I'd like you to try to put it in a little more comparative context, because I think it's a good idea to study Japan. You sound like you have really good data on here, an incredibly regular process of elections. It sounds like every 4 years they have these elections. And so that gives you a lot of continuity in the data production. You say it's kind of unusual to have units sort of come and go in the or go away in the middle of your data set, and actually international relations or comparative politics, that's often the case, usually not in voluntary sort of ways. You know, there's either incorporation of the losing sides or sort of the creation of new sort of units afterwards. And there are sort of ways to sort of deal with that in the IR literature that and in fact, something I remember in graduate school, I had exactly the same problem with someone trying to compare post-unification Germany. No, it couldn't have been, that hadn't happened yet. But it was something about East and West Germany, and yeah, trying to compare their economic regions back to before the Second World War. Kind of problematic because those were not units within that time period. So I understand that, but I still think that you're overlooking kind of the process aspects of this. And Bernie picked up on why that spike in 2004, 2005. And I think it would be useful to think in terms of why did some potential consolidated regions occur and some did not? What was the reasons behind why there was consolidation? And if it was purely response to financial incentives, well, that's something you could set up a little different test to sort of see were the ones that took advantage of that, the ones that really needed the resources, or was there something else going on? And I was struck in the paper, you mentioned it here, there were all these reasons where you might get benefits from consolidation, or you might get complications from consolidation. And it seemed to me that in the Japanese case compared to other countries, those complications would be less difficult than in the American case, for example. My sense is that looking at it from a distance, that the Japanese urban societies are relatively homogeneous in their populations, unlike the US, where you would have different cities with different proportions of minority populations or different problems, crime or other things, and that consolidating a region, expanding a city to taking care of the suburbs turns it from a primarily African-American community to a primarily white. And that was exactly what was going on with Unigov moving to a Monroe County. Marion County. Thank you. Yeah, Marion County. You hear it in Indianapolis. Yeah. And that's not a theme that they really picked up on very much in their work, but that was kind of the underlying political. And I think you're missing the underlying political sort of here. So how would you react to sort of why? I mean, are the cities or the areas that have never consolidated systematically different?
Usually, mostly municipalities in the rural and small areas,
I figured.
core, big municipalities, they tend to get merged. But I think this is a good idea to compare, those municipalities who in a rural area which actually merged and actually did not. So I think we may do some kind of a matching or some kind of things.
I think that's worth exploring, because then that gives you a little more sense of the politics behind it, or the configuration of the problem that they're trying to deal with.
Thank you.
Okay, so so Shannon, you wanted just to see this, or now you have a question?
I do, but Ariana.
Okay, so Ariana first in that case, and then Shannon.
I'm curious from the perspective of the national, I assume the financial incentives for merging come from the national government. And so what is the national government's reasoning for wanting to incentivize merging? What did they express as what they're looking for?
Yeah, because at that time, still now, local governments have a lot of debt, financial debt. Also, the national government needs to, because of financial debt or also very bad efficiencies of small municipalities. So actually they want to, improve increase, the efficiency or financial conditions of especially those small municipalities, but they could not force, them to merge. So they kind of incentivize. Because,
do you have, how are you thinking about your project in relation to the goals of that national government?
Goals of the my project?
Yeah.
I think if we show some positive effect, good performance effect of municipal mergers, of course, that goes along the line with what the central government wishes. But actually, it's not so much, many, evidence right now. So we'll see how things go. Then I don't know if we show that merger brings bad, effects on the, for the performance. I don't know how the central government reacts to our research, or they just ignore or pretend not to look at or criticize. I don't know. Yeah, but in case of Japan is a country where regardless of regions, people can have equal access to some basic services, and quality of the education is relatively similar. So there is actually equality, and it's very high, even people living in a small town. So I think that's why the government wants to keep those kind of equity, all over Japan, just to keep the merge small municipality. Otherwise, there should be more like a disparity depending on municipal, the government.
So Shannon,
I do. I was just Angie. Oh no, I was just in regards to people's concerns about differences in total expenditures or revenue before. I mean, you're running a difference in diff, so you should have. I imagine you have similar trends, so that should at least help some of people's concerns about.
Yeah. I should have a similar trend, but first, we only have this data set. We only have 2 years.
Okay.
We cannot actually see the trend, so that's why we are now a process of extending our data set.
Okay.
About more like 5 or 6 or 7 years.
So I have Angie and Dan, it seems like you have a point out this issue. So I can put you in the queue if you want.
I think so, yes. You want me to go?
Yeah, go on.
So my question is, how have you eliminated what's going on in Japan at the time that doesn't directly match on here? So isn't there tons of infrastructure being privatized? Isn't there a push to move people out of epicenter Tokyo out? So they privatize rail so that people can live farther away but still get to their jobs in Tokyo, which would massively change this. Isn't there also a typhoon and several massive natural disasters that hit Japan at this time? And I'm wondering how you've accounted for that, because that to me would be why I move away from X. Or why I seek to work together with the municipality that's between me and Tokyo, so that we get a rail network. You know, and so I just don't see that up here. And my question to you is, I think those things are, I don't do this stuff, so Gustavo's got to jump in. But I see the privatization of infrastructure as a massive impact as the cities in Japan become, I don't even overpopulated, which is an unfair generalized word, but nonetheless, my understanding is they were moving away from the cities because the cities were just smushed.
Yeah.
And that must, if you were between me and getting to Tokyo, I would work with you for a train network to have it so that I could build municipalities within 30 or 40 minutes of Tokyo on train pretty easily. So to me, that would impact consolidations, mergers, all this type of stuff, because I don't just have a obvious fiscal incentive. I also have just tons of incentive, not to mention the natural disasters that my understanding is just decimated.
Yeah, I think you are right. So if the municipality is a sort of like, I don't know, we call it a satellite municipality for them. They don't have a strong incentive to get merged. So I think that it's a great point. And then actually we clearly did not include, those kind of control variables. So maybe we can include, if municipalities located along the Shinkansen or rapid train or, super train line. Also, kind of also population inflow, related to big cities. So thank you very much. That is a very good comment.
Dan, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks, Angie, for teeing up my question.
Oh, good. Standardized lawyers.
In a way. So I think we need to, since you found that this doesn't work well, the question for me is, what did the designers of the financing program think that they were going to accomplish? Did they actually believe that they were going to gain economies of scale? Did they have some different motivation, right? So it becomes a public choice question, right? What was in their heads when they designed the finance program?
Okay, and then I'll go connected with that. So let me ask you a connected question to Dan's, and I think Angie, it's because I want you to interpret that 26 there that you have. So it's so exactly what is total municipality expenditure, what per capita. So exactly how do you measure that variable?
Per capita. As I said, we aggregate the data, to the post-merger unit level. So then we created the population of the, for example, like 3 municipalities to the 1 big municipality.
These total expenditures of the municipality.
Of everything, aggregate. So,
in that case, let me give you a very simple interpretation of this. This proof that essentially it worked. Essentially what they had in mind is resources that were coming from the federal government. And then those resources came, and what they are doing is increasing expenditure and reducing taxes because now they have an external source of money. It worked. That's why they're merged. Essentially. So that will be my expectation is they increase spending per capita and they reduce taxes per capita. And then who is paying the difference? Well, the bonus by the federal
Central
government.
government fill the gap,
Yeah.
then.
Exactly, that's a natural reaction. So this doesn't speak at all about governance. It speaks about essentially collecting a rent from the federal government.
Can you say anything about soft versus hard budget caps?
Pardon me?
Oh, yeah.
Can you say anything about whether there's a soft versus a hard budget here?
Lisa?
In terms of like whether there's a cap on spending at the municipal
Cap
level?
on spending.
Is there a hard budget constraint for the central?
Yeah, I think so, because some part of the budget spending have to be like mandatory spending, such as like social care or the welfare services and education. So I think there are some parts of the mandatory part and non-mandatory parts. So I think that depends on that. But I don't know if there is a absolute cap on the spend or not. Something.
So I would say, let me help you with that. So one way of thinking is like, I would like to see all those dependent variables, but excluding transfers from the federal government. So it's like, this is what is on of what they receive because they merge. So if the federal government says, oh, here it comes this bonus because you merge. So now I'm going to be measuring total expenditure per cap minus that thing per capita. So it's like, what did they do essentially with that?
Yeah, I totally understand.
Something like that. So-
Another way of doing it is just to ask, are they running a budget deficit now where they weren't before? Or is the subsidy making up for any deficit they might
Yeah.
have run?
So,
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. Yeah, I don't know if we can distinguish expenditure, because expenditure is something, like result, right? So I don't know if this part of expenditure comes from mandatory or this come, from central government. Yeah, we may, but I would say revenue, it's easy because this from the central government or this from the local government. Expenditures. But
but on the revenue part, you don't have total revenue. You have only revenue that they collect by themselves.
Yeah.
So what you need is transfers. So transfers went up. Essentially, that could be.
Yes.
So imagine that I tell you the following thing. You have 26.12 plus what is 0.22, 0.80. So it's something like you have a 27 point something up of extra resources per capita. And then what if you receive that amount in transfers? I would say, well, that would explains everything. So they got 27, whatever you are measuring, let's say that $27 per capita extra, and they spend that in some little tax reduction and some extra spending per capita. And then they just spend that. That's it. So I don't know any follow-up on this, or I have Diego next in the queue, but given I think this is important topic, any comments on how to, because I think it's still what you claim. So your interpretation could be there. It's I think you need to kill this alternative interpretation. Okay.
But ultimately, it's not about performance.
Yeah, it's about the spend.
Ultimately, it's about taking available money.
Yes, but yeah, still, look,
I mean-
still you can use it to see performance because look, the administrative costs went down. So that's still, so it's the reform was there and you can see it, but maybe they did the reform to collect the money.
But here's the problem with I'm curious as to where the administrative costs are coming from, right? Because one would like administrative costs going down because their economies of scale is a little bit different than administrative costs going down because now you only have one unit, so you only need one mayor. Those are really different things. The latter you would expect that's nothing new or exciting or interesting, and there's no way to avoid that savings. Frankly, unless you double the mayor, like, right? Versus actually like lowering other associated administrative costs, which is an actual change. And so I'd be curious if you've already been able to sort of say, well, minus the salary of the mayor and pretty much all the people that we don't have to have two of now, which is again, a given is no change in behavior on the part of the administrators,
Mhm.
right? But instead just there are half of you now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. So also some municipality, some major case, only 2 municipalities are involved, but in a bigger case, 5 municipalities or 7 municipalities are merged into one. So, but I don't know, should I just include a dummy of a count, control variable of a number of municipalities involved in the merger, or
I think that definitely needs to be in here somewhere.
right? So it should also add additional complexity in the
Maybe the number of officials before and after.
number of municipalities.
So you drop from, if you drop it in half or you drop it to
I
1/5.
Yeah, I still thinking of this in terms of dyads instead of individual municipalities is a better plan, which is that you match, not a better, but I think a good robustness check, right?
Mhm.
You take your municipalities and you say, okay, well, here are 2 that merged. What happened before, what happened after?
Mhm.
Then you match 2 others that did not merge,
Right.
but look similar to the 2 that did merge,
Mhm.
such that you can say, okay, now I'm gonna try, and essentially the way you would measure the 2 that didn't match is just is largely a sum,
Mhm.
right? But then you could sort of subtract these basic things that are not interesting, which is like doubling of administrative personnel, right? But you might then be able to sort of control a lot of the things by looking at these sort of paired matches,
Mhm.
right? Especially because, some of the selection effects we talked a little bit about in terms of budgetary need. You could then sort of say, disaster affected and non-disaster affected matches, right? Like that would help you to get around some of these. I'm not sure it would get very far in addressing Gustavo's problem exactly. Because we'd have to sort of think about whether, you might still be able to see whether those, was there any sort of increase in central government budget allocation money on the table that even the non-merged dyads then had access to? I don't
You
know.
have data on transfers, no, from the federal government to the municipalities.
Yeah, the pre-merger.
So yes, you could hypothetically do that. I don't know, but I'm curious if that presents any obvious problems to people as they think about it. I don't know I mean, there's a lot of dyad work and like conflict.
So you are suggesting a matching strategy rather than the diff in diff,
A
essentially.
matching of literally of dyad municipalities,
Mhm.
right? So 2 that merge versus 2 that don't, that look very similar in other ways.
I have to think all that. I mean, okay, I've been postponing Diego forever in the queue. It's like I am moderating and we get disorganized. I don't know why. Maybe it's pure correlation.
Yeah, too, you might.
And probably we have questions in the chat, yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
go Diego and I will check the, chat.
This is very interesting and my question is gonna change the line of thinking. If you wanna go there or not. Your variables of analysis, obviously, all of the research is very focused in the money element. How much it's got, but one of the money elements thinking in the future also is the quality of the services that if you merge, it's gonna be different. Better or not? Do you plan to?
Yeah, I think that is a great idea. So, but unfortunately, in the Japanese municipality, there's not great data set of such kind of citizen satisfaction or about public services. So I think alternatively, we may focus on the more like outcome level variable, such as educational attainment or graduation rate. But another issue is there should be more distance between what municipality do and those kind of outcome variables, because we don't know how much actually what municipalities do affect the outcome level variables such as education rate or kind of outcome level people's variable. So that is also another dilemma. But we want to focus. Yeah, we also want to go beyond the fiscal measure, as you said.
Okay, I missed some questions from the chat from 15 minutes ago or something like that. So let me read those questions. So what about the demographic pressures for services? I was thinking on the work of Usumi, So you have a link there that you can check them. Who works for the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. I live in Nagasaki from 2013 to 2016. And that people, what people discuss. I remember the big issue was,
Unifying.
yes, exactly. So do you want to address some of these questions, and then I'll go with Shannon and Angie that they have more questions, and we are almost running out of time.
And can you make sure you save the chat for him because he's got a link to an article in there.
Okay, yes, you have it.
David will have it for you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, or I think it's a very unique place which has a lot of, I think, Brazilian people, if I remember correctly. So I think it's pretty unique. Also Nagasaki, I think, he refers to a very small remote island in this place. So I think, we should also, So merger of these municipalities should be very different from merger of a city municipality with the surrounding area. So so this is something we have to address. Maybe the matching, we can match this type of unique municipalities and standard municipalities.
Okay, we'll save the chat, so we have that, you have that link there. So, Shannon, you already passed, okay. Second time, okay, good. So Angie.
Because I agree that it should do the matching, and so it.
Okay, already asked. Angie,
I was gonna follow up with some of the matching stuff, so I looked up the local system of local government. Are these different mergers happening because they're under governors? Because it turns out that municipalities are in control of like healthcare, while governors and their type of government is in charge of the hospitals. So, is that somehow is that accounted for in here? That these individuals might be merging because there's now one hospital that needs infrastructure again to get the mayors from the 5 surrounding municipalities to.
I think that's totally great comment. Also, that also makes me to decide. I mean, we should do a matching. I think because the context is totally different.
Right.
The prefect Nagasaki is very different from Tokyo and Kyoto prefecture. So
Chess, and then you can go.
Okay, I just have a quick 2-finger on that, which it seems like given a lot of the questions you're getting and you know the case well, I'm sort of wondering if a little bit of a sort of really targeted interviews. Like I can't remember if you said you'd already done this, but even just to say, okay, here are some of the justifications that mayors and governors came up with and thinking about like, yes, okay, in this case, we really need to make sure that like we handle healthcare, there's only one hospital, so we gotta make sure that everybody can access it. Right, and so in this case, that's a relevant justification. How often does that pop up? Like, what are the kinds of justifications you're hearing? Just so you can sort of speak, it's really, I mean, frankly, you're not gonna reach every single context, right? There's no world that that's gonna happen, but even just being able to say, and I can't remember in our conversation if you mentioned that you had some of these conversations or not, but it does seem like just like getting at what some of those mechanisms might be, then could guide like a matching strategy, like what you think are really, really important parameters to be matching on to consider those particular mechanisms at work.
thank you.
Okay, we are running out of time, so 2 minutes. I would suggest, so Leo,
I did it.
you asked, okay, you're good. So Dan, do you want to ask your question and then Dan, and then you reply to that and then wrap up, okay, 30 seconds.
Okay, presuming that the funders had a sense that some of this was needed at least somewhere, it might be worthwhile disentangling some of the cases and determining did it actually do what they wanted in some cases and not with other cases.
I really think so.
I just want to share some thought about do you find something about political conflicts or about political climate in your case? I think it might be affect to performance.
Right.
Yeah, that might be useful for your analysis. And I have a last question. In your case, is a single tier municipality or you have a multiple tiers of municipality. I'm not sure about your case.
It's municipality and governor and prefecture, it's a state, but actually not federal, but the state and central government. So actually the state or prefecture actually also affects the merger decisions a lot. So their policy toward the attitude toward the municipal merger also depends on the governance. So I think that's why we have to consider that also. So many things we have to consider.
Okay, I would suggest that people continue over lunch, okay? Sorry for the sloppy moderation, but I think it was fun discussion.